You think you know yourself, but do you really? When no one's watching, when there's no one to impress, who are you, truly? Because it's easy to stay in control in front of others. The hard part is facing what shows up in the silence. That version of you that no one sees, that even you avoid. In this video, I'm going to show you why what you do away from the world's eyes says more about you than any words you speak. And if you have the courage to go all the way, you'll understand why this is the most dangerous and most liberating as part of your identity. We live surrounded by expectations. From an early age, we learn we need to become someone. The exemplary child, the competent professional, the reliable friend. Without realizing it, we build a social image, an edited version of ourselves, crafted to be accepted, admired, applauded. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to function in the world. And the problem isn't having a persona. The problem starts when we believe we are that mask. While the persona performs on stage, there's another self behind the scenes. The one who carries thoughts you don't post, feelings you won't admit, and desires you don't share. This is the self that emerges when you're alone. And often, it's the one making your decisions without you even realizing it. What do you do when no one is watching? What you consume, how you talk to yourself, what you hide. All of it reveals deep layers of your identity. And that's where the truth lies. Because what you do in the dark defines who you are in the light. The way you act when you're alone says more about who you are than any opinion you hold about yourself. Deep down, we all have behaviors, thoughts, and impulses we'd rather keep out of sight. But it's precisely those hidden parts that define our essence. And the more you ignore this invisible self, the further you drift from an authentic life. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Who you are when no one's looking is who you really are. And until you face that honestly, everything that comes out of your mouth will just be talk. The proposition here is clear. Are you going to face that side of you or keep running until it takes control for you? Since childhood, we've learned to hide parts of who we are. We've learned that feeling anger is wrong, that showing vulnerability is weakness, that being accepted matters more than being authentic. And that's how the persona is born, the socially acceptable version we construct to survive. It adapts, pleases, plays roles, but it's not you. The problem is that we start to believe in our own performance. You become the character you created. And the more you reinforce that image on social media, at work, in relationships, the further you get from your essence. And that distance comes at a cost. Anxiety, exhaustion, emptiness. The persona can't carry the weight of the soul for long. Because behind the rehearsed smile and the controlled posture, there's a part of you screaming for authenticity. And the question is, how long are you going to keep up the act? How long will you ignore that part of your pain comes from living a life that isn't yours? When silence comes, most people run. They turn on the TV, pick up the phone, start scrolling endlessly. The idea of being alone with their own thoughts is terrifying. Because deep down, you know that if you stop, you'll have to face things you've avoided for years. The emptiness you feel isn't a lack of stimulation. It's an overload of distraction. You've become so disconnected from yourself that you no longer know how to deal with what you feel when the noise stops. And it's in that silence that the truth appears. Frustrations, regrets, repressed desires, fears you've never named. They don't scream, they whisper, but you feel them, and your body keeps score. Jung said that what we avoid facing shows up as fate. In other words, what you don't resolve internally will repeat itself externally. So, while you run from the void, it turns into poor choices, toxic relationships, self-abandonment. And life seems to be against you when in truth, it's just a reflection of everything you've refused to face within. We all have thoughts, impulses, and desires that don't match the image we want to project. Desires for control, for revenge, for recognition at any cost. Feelings like envy, pride, anger. Things we learn to suppress because they're not pretty. But hiding isn't the same as eliminating. When you repress something, it doesn't disappear. It becomes a shadow. And that shadow finds ways to manifest in a passive-aggressive comment, a choice that sabotages someone, a critique disguised as concern. You act as if you're being rational, but deep down you're reacting to what you don't accept in yourself. Jung called this projection. When you can't bear to see something in yourself, you project it onto others. And that's how you start to see arrogance where there's confidence, malice where there are boundaries, threat where there's freedom. Because the enemy isn't outside, it's inside, using the world as a mirror. If you don't have the courage to face these hidden desires, you'll spend your life being ruled by them. You'll judge those who live what you repress. You'll hate in others what you secretly crave. And worst of all, you'll drift further and further from your truth. When no one's watching, you are free. Free from expectations, from roles, from the gaze of others. And in that freedom, you have two choices: to lose yourself or to find yourself. It's in that space without rules that you reveal what truly drives you. What do you do when no one is applauding? What do you choose when no one is demanding anything? That is the true measure of your character, your intention, and your awareness. But that freedom is also dangerous, because without external accountability, it's easy to slip into self-indulgence. It's easy to hide behaviors behind the idea that no one will ever know. And that's where the shadow grows, in the darkness of silent permission. Being free in the invisible doesn't mean doing whatever you want without consequences. It means being conscious enough to choose with integrity, even when no one is watching. That's what sets apart those who are awake from those still living on autopilot. Most people are afraid of solitude, but that's where true self-knowledge begins. When the world goes quiet, when the stage is empty, when it's just you with yourself, that's when you have the chance to integrate what was forgotten, repressed, or denied. Integration isn't about becoming perfect. It's about uniting the broken parts, accepting the imperfections, and looking inward with honesty. Because as long as you avoid solitude, you keep outsourcing your identity, living for others' opinions, for external validation, for the praise that feeds your persona. Want to know who you are? Stop. Be silent. Observe your thoughts without distractions. Write down what you feel when no one expects anything from you. Ask yourself, is what I'm feeling really mine, or was it implanted? Is this desire mine, or was it inherited? This fear, is it real or just an echo of the past? The more you can stand being with yourself, the more you realize you are never alone. You are just disconnected from yourself. You can keep living behind the mask, fulfilling expectations, avoiding silence, or you can be brave enough to face the person who shows up when no one's watching. Because in the end, that's the version that stays with you when everything falls apart. It's the one making decisions behind your smile. It's the one screaming while you pretend everything's fine. The freedom you seek on the outside only exists on the inside. And it begins when you stop running from yourself. Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams, but he who looks inside awakens." And that's exactly it. Looking within is uncomfortable, but it's the only real path to authenticity, to truth, to peace. Life doesn't get better when the world changes. It gets better when you see yourself with honesty and finally start living as who you truly are. Now tell me, who are you when no one's watching? What did you discover in the silence you were avoiding? Leave your most honest insight in the comments. It can be a word, a story, a feeling. Sometimes what you share helps someone else recognize themselves too. And if this video made sense to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us on this journey of inner exploration. The next video will show you why, even when you have everything, you often still feel lost. See you there.